First of all, welcome to November's edition of our PBCS Update webinar. Before we get started on the content for today's edition, I just want to introduce eCapital for those of you who are new to the call. So eCapital, we are a firm based out of Minneapolis that really focuses on business analytics and big data. Up to this point, we have roughly 250 Oracle EPM and BI customers, and we are an Oracle Gold partner as well as a Cloud Standard partner, so a lot of specialized consultants focusing on Oracle technology. Here's kind of our NASCAR slide just to give you a sense of some of the larger companies that we've worked with and implemented successful projects with throughout the past. And myself, who's speaking right now, my name is Ryan Kohler. I'm an EPM manager with eCapital. Been with the company for roughly 5 years and have been doing Hyperion planning, S-Base, and PBCS work for about 10 years now. And I'm joined today by Bob Ussett, who's also a manager on the eCapital Oracle practice. And we actually have roughly about the same experience, and we're both really focused on the PBCS agenda from Oracle and continuing to learn more about the cloud. So I do want to just mention, too, that today's November release is fairly small compared to some of the other monthly releases. So we may not have as much content to deliver today as we typically would. But I do want to definitely encourage anyone on the call who's interested in getting a hands-on experience with PBCS to go out to our website and feel free to register for our PBCS product demo that we're hosting on December 15th. So we'll be going through kind of a roundtable discussion to determine whether or not PBCS is right for your organization, certainly cover some key functionality of the tool set, and also talk about some critical deployment strategies that we feel are very important when considering the move to the cloud. And then mostly, or most importantly, we'll kind of wrap things up with an interactive demo as well as a networking lunch. So if you are local, feel free to join our website there and register for the demo. So let's get into today's webinar. Again, we're going to go through kind of what PBCS is here first, and then we'll jump into some of the new features. So when we talk about PBCS, this is Oracle's subscription-based planning, budgeting, cloud services. It's a solution that really gives you kind of a one-size-fits-all model here with available customizations. You're going to get a simplified interface, which really makes the end-user experience streamlined and most effective throughout the planning process. Not only do you get input forms, but you have the ability to introduce light dashboarding as well as some dynamic financial reporting as well. So you might ask, what are the benefits or why choose PBCS? I think that's also an important discussion to cover. So first of all, I think choosing a cloud-based solution as opposed to an on-prem can really help that speed to implementation completion time. A lot less factors that you need to kind of evaluate throughout the process. Most importantly, there's not going to be any infrastructure on the back end that you as the client or you as the owner will have to manage moving forward. You'll be on Oracle data centers, Oracle servers, not have to worry about that investment from an IT standpoint. I would say my favorite piece of this is just the fact that you're always going to have the latest and greatest. I know, when talking to a lot of different companies out there, some of the most painful processes that they go through are, technology upgrades for some of the solutions that they have implemented on-prem. Moving to the cloud really helps eliminate any of the needs there for the upgrades, as you're always going to be getting the latest and greatest kind of pushed down to your module on a monthly basis there. And then also it's nice to point out that the compatibility is really comprehensive across the board here. So, not only will this integrate with Internet Explorer or Firefox, it actually integrates with Office 365 very nicely as well. So ultimately, all these factors combined really will kind of save you a lot of time and money on your investment, for your organization's planning solution. Do you want to point out as well, don't forget about EPBCS. So EPBCS really being the enterprise edition for Oracle's planning, budgeting, cloud services here. And specifically what you get here, as opposed to your standard PBCS implementation, is some of the pre-built modules that come with the tool. So specifically, you're going to get financials, projects, workforce, and CapEx. That's always been kind of the traditional look and feel of things. This year, actually, in the summer, they introduced a 5th module as part of EPBCS, and that is the strategic modeling. So that's the equivalent of Hyperion Strategic Finance, which was a tool set that was fairly outdated on-prem. They've integrated this into the EPBCS suite now for kind of a one-stop shop for you. I do also want to mention that whether you choose PBCS or EPBCS, one great piece of functionality that comes with these tool sets is the fact that you'll be able to use SmartView regardless of your solution that you choose. So SmartView, again, is that Excel add-in that allows you to integrate Microsoft Office along with your PBCS implementation. So I think majority of the time we think about Excel being the primary usage of SmartView, which I think is absolutely true. You can integrate PowerPoint and Microsoft Word with it as well, though. Honestly, I've not seen a ton of exposure to Microsoft Word with using SmartView, but I've certainly seen some good situations to leverage PowerPoint for, especially if you're going through the same type of quarterly sector review with your leadership, and you want to make sure that you kind of streamline the process to build those PowerPoint decks up. Can simply click refresh after you build them out initially, and the rest is history. So just some kind of nice functionality to point out here. So why don't we get into the new features then of the November release. Again, here's our typical cloud readiness guide that's sent out to us each month. You're going to see that I'm going to walk us through kind of our PBCS updates, and then Bob's going to walk us through the EPBCS updates. So for this month's monthly update schedule, we did get these enhancements pushed to our test environment on November 3rd, and they have moved into our production environment on November 17th. So they are already in production and ready to go for us. So the first update that would impact both PBCS and EPBCS is the changes to the provisioning report. So a few months back, Oracle had released an update that impacted the provisioning report from an Excel exported file perspective, where in that CSV file that is created, the roles that were included were more summarized with that update. I think Oracle has received some feedback on that update and have actually found that a lot of organizations appreciated the detail of seeing specific roles like ad hoc grid creator, ad hoc user, administrator, and analyst, just a few of the roles that would come with your PBCS implementation. So they've essentially kind of reverted this change back, so you now have that additional detail included once again when you export that in that CSV format. This next piece of functionality that's been released as part of the November enhancement schedule is around data management. So one of our more elegant data integration options within the tool. And this actually allows us now to create kind of duplicate or registered duplicate target application names. And this can be accomplished by leveraging that prefix field that is now available when you're selecting your application. Now, I will say that in a real-world scenario, especially when we're talking about a production environment where the end-user community is truly kind of accessing these applications, I don't think that this is going to be something that's going to probably make a ton of sense for a true use case. But when Bob and I were kind of going over some of these updates, we thought that this was actually fairly helpful in kind of more of a test application or a test environment perspective, where you may have multiple developers kind of trying out different things, treating it as their sandbox from time to time to try to leverage new functionality or test out some new options as far as their data integration environment. So just kind of provide some additional flexibility here that allows, I think, additional people to be in there testing in that non-production environment. So nothing crazy here, but I think it is a useful enhancement here, especially from more of a technical side of things. So with that, I'll pass it on to Bob, and he'll go through the EPBCS updates for the month.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, so as Ryan said earlier, these are going to be focused enhancements on the out-of-box modeling that you get if you have the enterprise option. So again, it's going to be those projects, the financials, workforce, capital, and strategic modeling. Any of us that do not have that enterprise license will really not see these features in any of their environments. So just a couple enhancements this month. So the first one we'll talk about here is currency conversion for those of us that are using weekly planning. And essentially what this one is if you go in and you make a currency conversion assumption change, and you make it at that month level, you don't want to maintain it down at that weekly level, it'll actually apply that change down at that weekly layer. So you'll make that assumption change at that global level by month, and it'll actually just apply it down at a weekly level. So for those of us that have, data, if we have costs down at that weekly level, it'll actually convert when you click that save and you actually make that change for both monthly and weekly data. The next one here is detailed configuration for weekly. So another weekly enhancement here. Basically what you're going to be able to do with this enhancement is you're going to be able to very easily go in and pick which account or cost centers or the combination of the two you want to plan at that weekly level. So in the example here, we can see for our compensation drivers, you're able to simply just go in there by clicking on that weekly configuration. It's going to pop up a screen like this. And you're able to just very simply and easily select which account, in this example, you want to apply at that weekly level. So you're able to do it at detailed levels. So if there's maybe just a couple of different accounts you'd want to plan at a weekly level, you can do that. You can also, disable it at a higher level, which we did here with that compensation drivers, for example. By simply just clicking it on that upper level, it's going to uncheck all the accounts underneath it. Really just giving us a very easy way to go in and adjust the level of detail we need in our modeling, whether that be planning it down at that weekly level or keeping it up higher at that monthly roll-up. So really just a great tool to help us toggle between those options between the two. The next one here is around the strategic modeling out-of-box functionality that we have here. And what this essentially is doing is allowing us to create custom views that we want to review our strategic modeling in. So out of the box, they'll give you a standard view, an input view, an output view that are essentially kind of classifying different accounts that get created in the strategic modeling and essentially help you clean up the interface that you're going to be looking in. So but what they've enabled this month is it actually has enabled us to create new ones, create customized ones. So you're able to go in there, simply create a new data view. There's a list of options for the different types of accounts that you want to show up when that option is selected. So you're able to simply do that, and then by simply clicking OK and saving that, you can now see in the bottom right, you have a new option for the type of data view that you want to see. So, for those of us that have been looking for ways to kind of clean up the way that we view the accounts in strategic modeling and different things like that, and we always have been wishing, I wish I could see my input and my calculated cells, for example, we essentially just have a way to enable that view to be seen. So again, a customized view within our strategic modeling interface, just to help us through those planning cycles. And the last feature here for this month is around Groovy scripting and actually leveraging Smart Push or data maps within Groovy scripting. So quick update on what data maps or Smart Push is. That is basically having the ability to push data between our different plan types. So whether that would be pushing it from one planning plan type to another planning plan type, or pushing it from a planning plan type to a reporting plan type. It's essentially enabling us to do that, and that can be done all through savable web form where it initiates that. Essentially the change, no real change on how that data movement processes or happens, but the difference is you can now make those calls using a Groovy script itself. So if you want to try to automate this process, through a nightly update procedure, you should be able to script this now into your update process where you're simply going to be able to call that Groovy, wherever you program that basically in your rule set. So try to put a high level overview for the class on that Smart Push and how to interact with that. Again, if you're not going to be looking to automate the Smart Push through like a standardized batch process that would leverage a Groovy, not something we would ever need to look into. Most of the time these Smart Pushes from a planning standpoint are simply going to happen when a user clicks save on a form. But again, they do have the ability now to script this in that Groovy language. So that was it. As Ryan said, very small release from a feature standpoint. In total, around 6 features this month, all of them pretty minor. With that being said, we still have that support section. So once again, I've been echoing this for over a year now. The standard interface is no longer supported starting January of next year. Hopefully everyone on this call at least is starting to plan for that process to happen. Again, that simplified interface, Ryan and I both agree on this. It is an easier to navigate interface, very smooth transition from different areas of plan to different areas of plan. That being said, how to get to certain things are very different from that standard interface. You definitely are going to, at a very minimum, want to have documentation out there for your end users to help them navigate this the new look and feel to make sure that when this gets shut down from a support standpoint next year, we're not going to be left out in the cold in a tough spot if people don't know how to navigate that. So the next thing is the classic dimension editor is also being retired in place for basically the new interface to maintain that metadata. So again, historically we went to go in there to maintain our dimensions and our members within those dimensions is slightly different. It essentially has a look and feel very similar to the admin plugin that we have, as we're using SmartView to interact with our hierarchies. But again, that old process is being decommissioned. Strongly recommend we start using this other one. It's very intuitive, not difficult to understand, but again, just be ready for when this other option is going to be retired. Finally, another one we've been echoing for several months now, the desktop client for the reporting studio is no longer going to be supported starting next year. This is one that we should be on top of as administrators of our system. The interface is exactly the same basically as that desktop client, just the way you access is going to be different. So if you have any questions about any of these release changes, please feel free to reach out to us. I know we've been talking about all of these for several months now, and hopefully your organization has been ready to pivot because we have known about these for several months now. That really wraps up this month's webinar. So we strongly recommend joining us for next month. Next month could be another small release. I'm sure there was definitely a factor in the release being smaller, just simply given the holiday schedules that we know we have this month. Definitely could be the case for December as well. We don't know that yet. We will find out that in the next couple of weeks here when we actually see that release schedule. But something else to call out for next month as well is we are actually also going to do a segue here and kind of highlight our top 10 features in 2017 that we think you should really leverage in your application. So we're going to try to take some time next week, highlight those top 10 features, talk about how you can leverage it in your environment, how it's going to save you time and money, complete that plan faster basically at the end of the day, to give you some information on how to just basically better your model based on what we've seen come through in 2017. So with that, it doesn't look like we have any questions today, not surprising given the small nature of our release, but thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. Definitely tune in next month. Close the year out right. Make sure we understand all the features that are going in. And again, as a bonus, Ryan and I will talk through the top features of 2017 and how you can really improve your planning and budgeting process using these features.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.